What's up, guys? Welcome to the Huddle. We come at you every week to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. Join me today, as usual, is Daniel and Jose. Jose's on the road, so you get maybe some window shots of the beautiful Michigan countryside, it looks like. And we got Daniel at the home office up there in Michigan. What's going on, fellas?
How's it going, brother?
Well, this week we are going to discuss the same topic as we were going to have last week, and unfortunately got pulled in multiple different directions, and we were not able to be on the podcast last week, and we apologize for that. But at the end of the day, you guys, if you're in this audience, know that sometimes things come up in the flooring business, and you got to take care of that. So
we definitely tried to get on, but we were on a job site going through some training with the guys and some equipment, and it just wasn't in the stars, man. It just couldn't make everything work.
Yeah, I was on a job site as well in beautiful Colorado Springs, and I simply could not pull away. I was actually installing a little bit of Bolon last week with some quiet cushion underlayment, and my knees and knuckles hurt for a few days. Back to normal now, though.
Normal-ish.
Yeah, normal-ish. I got to check myself. I get out on job sites, and sometimes I just can't stand still. And we had a room that needed done, and I was like, I can do that room. So I put my skills back to test. It was fun. I got it done. It looks good, but not without its challenges. So this week we're going to talk about leveling up your business in flooring. Now I'm going to touch on employees, and we can kind of talk about that a little bit, but really this is geared to the independent installer who may work direct with homeowners, may work through a flooring company, through a dealer, or you could be a full service flooring provider yourself and be the store. Either way, just kind of want to discuss some of these steps. I've been through many of them. In fact, all of those. So I know Daniel and Jose both started as installers as well. So guys, you want to just give like the 10-second version of, well, maybe a little more than 10 seconds, but
yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
The short version of starting in flooring to where you're at now. And I know we've talked about it in the past, but.
Yeah, so I started a long time ago when I was 12 years old, and I'm 35 now, so been in it for a minute. And for a long time, it was just, a job. And then it wasn't until, he approached me and was like, hey, I kind of want to do our own thing when we were working for a company. I was like, all right. And then since then, was still almost treating it like a job, and then something had to click to where it's like, man, something's got to change, or else we're gonna keep on doing the same things over and over again. So we worked for a long time, just me and him, and then finally got to a point to where we started hiring some people, and like we were talking about before we got on here, we hired too many people at one point, and that's where I kind of want to say, sometimes leveling up is scaling back, because we essentially cut the workforce in half to be able to have those profit margins where they need to be in order to sustain everything. And we were just running into a bunch of punch lists and everything. And that's kind of a little bit after that is kind of when I started looking at things like, what kind of training can be provided, or can we provide too, so that way people can get to these steps faster? Because it was actually a meeting with someone that we did a lot of work for. They said, you only have so many miles on your knees, and I never really looked at it that way before. And now that I'm 20 something years into the game, my hips and my knees have taken a beating. So you kind of got to look at the the long-term picture of things. Like, no one is going to want to be on their knees forever. So what are the steps that you're going to take in order to progress to that next level? And for us, that was getting into sales here at Preferred Flooring. And this is like year number 4, I think. So we've been pretty slow going for a few years, and it's finally starting to pick up. We both say that we're not salesmen. You probably say the same thing about yourself, but anyone who owns a business is a salesman every single day.
I've embraced it the last few years. I used to be like, I'm no salesman, like that was a scummy side. I think it's because if you get around enough installers talking about salesmen, they're gonna have a bad taste in their mouth a bit. But you're right. I mean, if you own your own company, you're a salesman. You're a salesman of yourself, of your service, of your employees.
Yep.
I mean, even if you're not selling a piece of flooring at that moment, you're selling your reputation and your
You're always
ability.
selling yourself, right?
Yeah.
We relate a lot to sports teams, and that's what they say in sports teams. You're not just representing yourself anymore, you're representing your organization, and you have to kind of play the part anytime you're in the eye of anyone, really. So being professional, dressing the part, knowing what you can say to some people and what you can't say to other people, that's huge in anyone's growth.
Definitely takes practice, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys, Daniel, when you started, were you an employee early
When I-
on?
Yep.
And then
And-
you guys transitioned to sub and then full service, it sounds like, sales of flooring
Yep.
So I
materials.
think the other way around, we started out as a 1099 and then we transitioned to employee.
Well, it was still employee, 1099 employee, right?
Yeah, yeah, you guys got caught up in that mix a bit. I remember you saying previously.
Yeah, we did.
Well,
It was, we took our lumps.
Yeah, I have a similar background. I started when I was 19, right back when I got back from the Army, and then installed by the hour. I was a helper. I went through all the hazing and everything that's kind of prominent in flooring for some reason. Not like military hazing, but go get me the tile stretcher kind of thing. And a few years later, I started subcontracting and doing some sub work on the side. Got my insurance and things, and then about 3 or 4 years later, after starting, me and another guy went and started our own flooring company, and we took a bunch of lumps. So the purpose of this is we both have a lot of experience running through the cycles. So I thought we'd maybe try to save somebody who has aspirations of doing something similar, some of the pain. So to start with, you got employees, and if you're an employee, you can always increasing your skill, whether your company provides that training or not. Look around, find the trainings. You can go to Go Carrera's website and find trainings in your, all the trainings for any of the disciplines. But, invest in yourself. We say that a lot because we believe in it. I think all 3 of us believe in that greatly. So
Yes,
you can be an employee and move into, say, a crew leader or a installation manager, or maybe even be a trainer for your company. What we're really talking about leveling up is your business. So this is really geared towards the business owner. And if you're an installer and you're 1099, or you're working direct with a builder or something, you're a company. And you got to treat yourself as such. So some of the pitfalls, and I'll have you guys chime in as well here, but I got it written up on my board, so I'm gonna look up here a few times. But as a sub, you maybe start with smaller projects and want to move to bigger projects or a bigger crew. And managing, there's a lot of installers who have started very large installation houses. Any of those are ways that you can level up, but I would throw a couple of cautionary points in. A, bigger projects do not mean bigger profits. And B,
Yes.
um, bigger crews do not equal bigger profits. Now, sometimes, and I'd love your guys' opinion on this, but sometimes you have to lose profit to get off your knees. When I first started hiring people, our profits definitely hurt, but it was the only way for me to start to get off of my knees and start to get
Yeah.
in. It still took 4 or 5 years for that to happen. So what's your guys'
That's
I think
That's
that's what
what-
we kind of touched on that, right? The whole the 70% thing. When you're never gonna find anyone to replace yourself, right? So you have to find someone that can do it at least 70% of what you do.
Yeah. Their
And then you
100% is
find-
your 70%.
Yeah, you know, and that 70%, and then you find another person, so now you're actually at 140%, but you know, that's the only way you're gonna be able to level up, so to speak, right? That's what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
and you see a hit on the profits, and you know how long that lasts is ultimately how much work you're gonna put in, right?
Yeah, and how well
And
they
I-
perform. So what was so it was, sorry about that bump there, guys, but a few years ago, we got involved with our local chamber, and the gentleman said it best. And it mixes in with a lot of other conversations where at some point you got to stop working in your business and start working on your business, right? Because as long as you're working in your business, you own a job. You don't have a career. So that's that right there kind of resonated, hit home, and
Well, you may have a
Maybe.
career, but you're not a business owner. You own your
Right.
job. You don't own a business at that point.
there
And
you own your job, you own your business, right? You're right about the career, yeah. But yeah, you own a job, not a business, and that was like, man, I just never really thought about it like that, and why hasn't that crossed my mind?
Yeah, and sometimes when you're talking about bigger projects uh, or bigger crews, I shouldn't say sometimes. This always really boils down to hiring and having good hiring practices. Um, a lot of times when you're hiring new employees to maybe do some of the stuff that you did, you're looking for them to do exactly the way you did it. So a good training process, you spoke of that earlier, Daniel. You know, what can you provide in training that can get somebody up to speed? I love your guys' take. I hadn't thought about that, about, you know, someone's 100% is your 70%. That seems pretty true, because at the end of the day, I'll give you an example. We have a guy that's worked for us for 15 years as a project manager who has moved on. And he was bought in as much as anybody could be to a company. But, you know, now that he's elsewhere, like he doesn't have the stress and everything that goes along with it. Like, you can always find another job. So employees always have a way out. If you are a business owner, a lot of times you've kind of pushed all your chips into the middle and
Yeah.
playing all your cards. And so you don't have the opportunity to just quit. You have to keep having that persistence and driving forward. So before you go start your company, I would say the number one trait you need to make sure you have is persistence and a high level of tolerance to stress from financial situations. It's going to happen. And so you might as well be prepared for it. That's one thing that I know that I was not prepared for whatsoever, was not being paid or not, or yeah. And we've had other podcasts about how to get paid, and we've given, in my opinion, really good advice there, but it's still part of my past, and still part of that financial stress was just not getting paid. And I don't know, do you guys have any comments on that? It's a piece
Yeah.
that
It's
I
a-
wasn't prepared for.
Because what people think is that the money just keeps on piling up, right? But you're doing this the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like when it starts getting down there, you're like, man, what is going on here?
Yeah,
And
Daniel has approached me numerous times to where we've had to adjust our personal pay, right? Like we're at a salary, and a very modest salary, right? Because we don't need anything more than what we have, and he's like, hey, dude, in order for us to get here in the next 6 months, we're going to have to cut our own pay. So that way we can afford this equipment. So that way we can afford this van or these tools, or so we can afford to do this for the crews. And, it sucks. It sucks,
So
but,
that's sacrifice. You better be willing to sacrifice, it sounds like.
sacrifice 100%, man. When we decided to do our first level up and start preferred flooring, man, we barely had food or money for food for the house. We barely had gas money for the jobs, but we had enough to pay our rent. We had enough to pay our utilities. And we also had a great support group and a phone like, hey sis, what are you guys doing? Oh, what are you cooking today? So we go over there and we go over there and have dinner, or they'd come over and cook for us or something like that. They seen what we were trying to do before we knew what we were trying to do. But that was our first steps of leveling up and the first experience of sacrifice. You find out what you don't need to move forward.
Well, that brings up another, if you were to redo it or I was to redo it, I would be looking at, do I have the cash or the access to capital to where I can cover my bills and still have the access to grow the company. When I started with a salary, and I stuck with that $600 a week salary for 5 years before I ever gave myself a raise. And the purpose of that was to build up as much cash as possible and
Yes.
then be able to go to the bank and get a line of credit. That didn't work.
No, it didn't work for us either.
I had some cash. I thought we were ready. We had gotten some bigger projects that we needed capital to roll with, and we ended up factoring our invoices. I didn't have another way to get capital.
We had to show 2 years of history before we could even apply for our first credit card. But I think we did get a break from one of the local financial establishments close to the 2-year mark, because we were not sitting in a good spot, right? Like, we needed to buy equipment, we needed to buy stuff, and same thing, that salary. But what Daniel doesn't tell you is that our first full year of preferred flooring is, I think we both had less than 7 days off of work that year. And some of it, Daniel's days off were because he had his first kid, his oldest, and that dude took like 2 days off, maybe 2 days off, and came right back to work. But
again, sacrifice
huge,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, and when you're going to do what you guys did, which is go to full service and start selling the materials and the labor and providing the whole experience for your client, when you start doing that, it becomes overhead heavy, reliance on software and technology and equipment, which all cost money. And I think that even if you embrace those things, which we do, and I know you guys do, you buy equipment, you are technology forward and software forward. So you guys have that DNA, but it costs a lot of money to do all that. So you have overhead, now you have a building, and you got light bills and utility bills in a building to pay for. So when you have all that, before you take that step, anybody in the audience, you got to think about this. And I know it seems elementary, but it's really mind-blowing how often people don't forecast out at least 1 year and make sure that you're making a good decision from the long term. I did not. I jumped in. I thought I'll just figure it out. That's just kind of my personality. And I did, but not without the sacrifice and the headaches that went along with all that.
Lumps.
Yeah.
I think so if you haven't noticed, like I'm the visionary portion of the Daniel and Jose team, right? Like, I always see all the positives that could happen, right? I don't necessarily take into consideration the financial implications sometimes that could happen, but that's where Daniel comes in. Daniel's a real black and white, real by the book. He's going to read some numbers, he's going to crunch some numbers, it's going to make sense. A lot of what we've built has been on chance, which sucks to say, but there are some things that you cannot do if you don't start to level up and see that if you don't have certain amount of vehicles, a certain type of vehicle, certain equipment, if you don't invest in the right things, then you cannot be prepared for that next level. You're not doing yourselves any favors, but you don't want to jump to the next four. You're not. That's too much.
That's the key. Like, I mean, you can't do it without risk.
Right.
And if you're there enough, you're going to get lucky, or at least it's going to seem like it's lucky to other people, but really it's just where your hard work meets opportunity. Seems like luck, but it's not luck. It's the fact that you've been working long enough that then when the opportunity comes, you meet them right at the right spot. And that's more synergy, in my opinion, than luck. It appears like luck because all of a sudden you're getting good work and things are starting to roll. That happened year 7, 8 for us, where it really started, our machines started clicking, and then we have improved over the years from that. But, I think that the risk that you are going to take when you provide materials and labor, so when you're full service, it seems like a rosy garden, but in reality, there's a lot of thorns in there, and you just have to be aware of it. I'm not discouraging anybody from doing it. By all means, if you understand it, jump in. You can build a good business in flooring by doing so, but you just got to know that there's going to be some hard knocks. And, at the end of the day, you got 2 companies sitting here telling you that our processes weren't perfect early on, and some of the stuff that you can do to take away at least some of the lumps, there's no perfect solution here, but is to be prepared. Having access to capital, having either cash or access to capital is key when you start doing work with, say, general contractors or, property managers, where it's going to take you 60 days to get paid. You still got to pay your bills. Your vendors still want paid in 30 days. If I'm guessing,
Yeah.
Everybody does. And the installers too. It's like, it's hard to leave people hanging when you've been in that position before. And
yeah, labor
it's a
pays
vicious
every
cycle.
week in a lot of places.
And we just know too many other, guys out there that will have people come work for them and then just not pay them. And then we made it a point to not be like that too. That's like,
Yeah, the industry needs to get rid of those guys.
Yeah.
Like somehow there's such a low barrier of entry to be a flooring contractor or flooring company. Somehow the people who do not honor the guys that are actually doing the work, that's gotta quit. I know as Go Carrera going around talking to a bunch of other flooring companies, we've gotten this feeling that, some of them almost believe they own their subs, and or their employees, they don't treat that well. I really believe that the people who treat their subs and their installers, in-house installers or employee installers correctly in this, looming downturn, maybe it won't come, I don't know, but it appears that it's going to come. Those are the companies that are going to continue to do well, even through the downturn. In 2008, that cycle, we grew the next 2 years, 20%, the first year, 30% the next year. So that was, I felt, a testament that we didn't lose any of our talent. We were able to get the work, and we had built a reputation to be able to perform by that time. And so we were selected a lot of times when other companies were really faltering at that point. So, preparing yourself right and having a good reputation like you guys do. But that really boils down to, in my opinion, kind of setting yourself up for success. So what are your guys' key points if somebody's wanting to do what you guys have done, what are the key points of setting yourself up for success?
Start building your credit score early on. Cause
Yeah.
it matters.
And might I add, watch your company credit scores.
That's what I was gonna say too, you know, the DNB number, make sure you're getting all this stuff set up so that way by the time you actually need something, you have history in there already, even if you haven't gotten loans and stuff through the business, but at least you're in the system and they can look you up and be like, oh, they've been in business for, 3 years already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it makes things way easier.
And if
And
you
that's
got
what we did.
vendors, that's a great point, Daniel. If you have vendors, get them to report your good pay early on, and hopefully by the time you get to the point where you need capital, you've built up a good credit reputation. So
Yeah, it was amazing about the credit score thing. Like, we figured after X amount of years we can use the business, but the business had no credit, so they had to go off of our personal, because we were owners, so they used the personal until the business started rolling in its own credit, and now
that's another great point.
different
That's
story.
another great point. Be prepared to personally guarantee a lot of stuff, which means you're putting your own personal assets like your home and things like that at risk.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you sign early on to credits, lines of credit with your vendors or a bank, they want, certainly your bank's going to want a personal guarantee anyway, but vendors sometimes do. We had contractors that made me sign personal guarantees early on to personally guarantee their project would be completed and that, my personal assets would be at risk in completing that project. So yeah, that's another, you guys coming up with some good stuff. Yeah, those are
nobody looks at it like that, but those are the behind the scenes sacrifices that have to be made. And when your brother puts something on the line that's his that will affect his family, you're not putting yourself in a position to fail. You're going to do anything you can to make sure that you are successful, to make sure that debt is paid and satisfied. And it's a rough reality, but it is a reality until you have that cash flow to do as you wish. If you can do everything out of pocket, then more power to you. But starting out with nothing and no investors and all by yourself, you're definitely gonna go through a process.
Most of us don't start out with a pile of cash or a bunch of investors in flooring. I mean, we're usually installers taking over a boss's business, or we're going out and starting our own. That's most of the generation, or you're a generational, I should say, meaning you're taking over your dad's company or something like that. But
yeah,
that's some good points. So we have credit score, which I didn't bring up, which is obviously very important. You got the fact that you're personally guaranteeing a lot of the work and your credit lines. What else do you guys got?
Taxes.
Yeah.
Don't slip on your taxes.
We can talk about that every single episode, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's because I would almost bet that's, I mean, if we were placing bets, I think we'd all three bet that one of the biggest plagues for your average installer, the guy that subcontracts out of shops, one of their biggest shortfalls is paying their taxes on time.
And I will add this to the conversation is, man, we didn't start out this way right away, but we started as a DBA, but if at all possible, and you're just starting out, you're 3 days, 6 months, a year in, or you're still a DBA after 6 years, do yourself a favor and at least go become an LLC to do that. It seems like a little bit of a headache, but man, the reward of doing that and classifying yourself differently will pay for itself, man. It just don't wait too long to do that. Do that earlier and sooner than later, for sure.
Well, and to build on that just a little bit, you're in effect personally guaranteeing everything when you're a DBA anyway. So you
Yeah.
want to give yourself some level of a corporate veil to protect protect your personal assets from your company's activities. So I believe greatly in starting a company, starting a S corp. The most common is an S corp or an LLC. Get with your tax attorney and your attorney. I'm not a professional attorney, so I don't want to give you advice there, but those are the two most common entities. And there's a lot of tax advantages to that, as well as the protection it provides. But even after that, say you started a corporation, an S corp, and you're a business, a lot of times they still want you to, your credit providers still want you to personally guarantee, because your corporation doesn't have the back yet to back all that capital. So you just got to be prepared for that, or have investors, or have some money set aside to be able to cash flow it for a while until you build up your credit. But those are some pitfalls for sure.
And then one thing too is your history, right? So you can put out your charts for the previous year, so that way people can see your growth and they can see your ups and your downs. Daniel started doing that a while ago, and I didn't understand what he was doing until people started asking for it. We need to have 2 years of history show us where you're at, where your growth was. And it's nice to see in a snapshot your ups and your downs, and see you can create your own rhythms there. You'll know when you're slow. You'll know when you're busy. You'll know how to prepare for the next year. You're creating
when you have to make your money and save it, because that dip is coming, and it's I want to say it's almost like clockwork, but they surprise you sometimes.
Yeah, and that's a piece where, again, it goes into having the software or some technology to help you out there. A lot of accounting softwares can do that month by month graphing. Ours does, which will show you your revenues versus cost month over month, and compare years and all that stuff. But you got to be prepared for that. What I would say is, don't wait until you're year 5 or 6, like I did, to start
keeping
getting that stuff in line. It would have helped a ton. I didn't have anything like this when I first started. I wish I did. But that's why we're here, is try to help somebody. If it helps one person avoid a few of the problems and become more successful, we've accomplished our goal.
Right. Yeah. And software is huge. You don't really think about it, because you think, I'm just going to collect a shoebox of receipts, but that gives you no information on how you're actually doing.
Yeah. It doesn't track any spending, any labor, any material. There's a lot of different things. You'll get, the more deeper you go, the more information you'll gather, and it gets easier and easier. I'm not a technology guy. That's Daniel, but Daniel pretty much locked me in a room with a computer and said, learn. And I didn't have a choice.
Well, I mean, one pretty simple way is keeping track of your monthly sales and expenses. If you keep track of those, putting them in a Excel spreadsheet, and you can run some pretty simple formulas to even be able to look at it like that. That's really low level, easy way to do it. But if you start there, that's still better than doing nothing. We didn't know frankly, we didn't know till the end of the year if we were making money or not for a long time, and had no idea if we would make money in a given year. That's complicated as it is, but if you're not tracking anything, it becomes even more, complicated, and there's just no way for you to know. So tracking your revenue and expenses, and having a percentage there that you're comfortable with, and that changes by company and by your cost of your building and everything else. But yeah, it's one of those things that I certainly did not do. Would have helped a lot.
And a lot of guys, that I talk to, they say, I need to learn how to use it, and then they just never do. And the biggest thing with everything that we're talking about right now, with the software and, the equipment and everything, you got to stop telling yourself that you can't afford to do it, right? I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. and I can't afford not to do it, because if I don't start doing this stuff, if you don't start doing this stuff, you're just going to stay where you're at the entire time. There's no paper trail to keep track of everything that's coming in and going out. So like you said, at the end of the year, you're like, I wonder what I made now.
And this is my
Well,
technology ability here. Look, a couple weeks ago, I didn't even know how to do that.
You got
Now
it.
I'm in
You got
space.
it nailed. Well, to polish it off, I would say that take as much effort and concern that you probably have with creating your logo, and place some of that effort and concern into setting your business up correctly, and giving yourself the best shot. Talk to some people, call any of us, send us an email. If you have questions on that stuff that we can help out with, but hiring practices, it's important to have a good interview process and make sure you're hiring good people that match your company's core values. Then, even then, like you guys said, you might only get 70% of yourself. But the point is, are you trying to grow a company? And some people want to own their jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can make a hell of a good living doing that. But just what are your goals? Identify that first when we talk about leveling up, and then maybe take some of the advice that you've heard on this podcast here at the Huddle and apply some of it. Apply what is applicable to your goals. But I think the two pieces you can't get away from is the credit score and the personal guarantee. I think those two you guys brought up is super important for everybody to be aware of.
That and the way that they do commercial loans is way different than the way that they do the loans that you've been used to. So if you haven't gone through that process yet, just know that the payback is not over years. Sometimes they want that money back as soon as they can get it.
Yeah, you're not getting a 30-year loan on your money like you would on a house.
No, they want their money.
Well, gentlemen, thanks again for joining this week. A lot of good stuff came up I wasn't even anticipating. So thanks for your input. I hope it helped anybody. Do we have any questions that have come across before we shut this down? Let me look here.
So I do know that Danny Sherman is saying hi. Dirk O'Brien is saying hi.
What's up, fellas?
Aaron Rohr
Dirkleton
is one of my brother's friends, saying that he's a good looking man. So that what you will. Jorge from San Antonio is saying hi, and that credit scores are very important. Randall Meyering is actually one of the construction companies that we work for over here. It's a great guy. He says he's loving the podcast, and as a construction manager, he loves hearing, the business discussion on how other people are kind of going through the same things that
I wouldn't mind
not just
Randall
like
joining it.
It's not just specific to the flooring industry, right? This is business, so it's kind of all over the board.
Yeah, it's a big veil. It covers a lot of business with a tweak towards flooring, but for sure.
And Jorge did say that there's apps for independent installers like ProBooks. So that's something that you can start with if you don't have anything. And I mean, look at some of the free stuff that they have out right now, just to kind of familiarize yourself with it before you actually start doing anything. That way, one, you're not paying for anything, and two, when you do have to upgrade to something, at least you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you get a better idea of what you're doing.
It's a good point. Use the software that'll let you use it and get some experience with it. And so a question looks like came in. I get leads from a lead service provider and work direct with homeowners, but spend a lot of time chasing leads, not pan out, making it hard to level up in any way. I would say, I would assume this is like using Home Advisor or Angie or something like that, and chasing a lot of leads, which means you're competing with a lot of people that may or may not have the same qualifications you do. We used some of that early on. We didn't find it valuable for our company, so we ceased using it.
Same.
the main reason was I've invested a lot of money and time in providing a high service, and to get undercut by somebody that just is not providing the same stuff is, and it's hard to convince a homeowner that I'm the right person. We don't do much residential anymore, but we used to. And trying to convince a homeowner that I'm the better bet at $2,000 higher, and this is why, usually fell on deaf ears, because the other guy would say, well, I'm cheaper because I have less overhead, or whatever the situation. We just didn't find it valuable. So what I would say to you is, if you can, and this is just an idea, if you can, document what type of leads are panning out for you and what type are not, from an aspect of what the homeowner is asking for. If you can graph that, or if there's a way to look at, for example, if you're really successful on bathroom remodels, but you're not so successful on and maybe you just do flooring, or you do multiple other things, but let's assume it's just flooring. If you're not so competitive on one given type, but you seem to be more competitive in hardwood, then kind of double down on the part that you're being successful on, and leave the others for the other guys. You guys have any input on that?
What we started doing was pre-qualifying, right? So you have a series of questions that you kind of ask, and then you kind of give a roundabout budget number, and then it's going to go one of two ways. Ooh, that's never mind. Like, why are you so high? Or that sounds fine. When can you get here?
Gotcha.
So
great advice.
It just sucks for the guys that are paying for those leads anyways, because they're paying for them whether or not.
It's great for the company. It's great for the home advisor and Angie or whoever. I don't know what specific lead service they're talking about, but it's great for them because they're getting paid from multiple crews for the same lead multiple times. So it's a great business model for them to make money.
Yeah.
But I don't, from my experience, they don't qualify the leads very well. So that's great advice, Daniel. That's probably the best advice. Qualify the lead, come up with, a list of questions, and maybe Daniel, we can put that in a blog post or something, and see what kind of questions you guys have asked that really starts to qualify that lead. But you said, kind of a budgetary price, asking some questions, maybe timelines, that kind of thing, and pre-qualify that lead before you drive out, waste your gas and time.
And I think one of the biggest questions that I don't know if Jose's been asking it lately, but it's, who else are you guys getting numbers from? And we know that
I have. That's a big question.
If they say, one of 5 companies, I'm not even going to bother with this. I don't, if you're going to see that number and you're going to be like, all right, we're going to go with them, but we know what you're going to get. So just kindly, hey, we can't handle that right now, or I don't even know what he says.
That is one of the questions that I have listed is, what other companies are you asking to estimate this project or to bid this project? And that's mostly geared towards like the residential aspect, right? Because consumers are a lot smarter now than they were 10 years ago. They're going to shop around, they're going to do a lot of their own research, and they're going to ask multiple companies to come in. They want you to catfight for their business. And, I'm willing to earn someone's business to an extent, but not at the cost of my time, because my time is very valuable as well. I have 20 other things that I could be working on that are for sure things.
So what do you say to a business? What do you say to somebody who says, oh, you're not willing to, have competition? Is that the thing? What do you say to that?
No, it's not that I'm not willing to have competition. It's just that I know that the name list that we'll be going against is I offer more value and a more personal experience than what they offer. And what I do is, believe it or not, I say this and I mean it wholeheartedly, is I'm not a salesman. My job is to find what's going to perform best for you and your family and your home long-term. because I don't want to come back in 2 years and redo something. I don't want to come back in 3 months and fix something. I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best product and install for your dollar that you can possibly have for the use. I'm not trying to upsell them. I'm not trying to, I make the best margin on this material right here. You know, I'm not doing that. This is the hot item this month. No, it's a custom order from start to finish from our end. And you know,
So
it has
basically,
attracted-
you tell them straight out that, look, the difference is we're going to look at your use case and make sure you have the right product for your house or for your home, or it could
or your
be a
business.
small commercial, you know, a TI finish thing with the dentist or something. What's going to work best for your facility?
We want it to perform, but you know, they have expectations, and so do we, and we
Yeah.
like to deliver.
Well, this question has a lot of different ways you could go with it. So I hope we kind of addressed it, but I'd say your guys' input on pre-qualifying that lead before you go out and start measuring and spending a bunch of time and effort and producing a quote just to find out you really had no chance anyway. So I guess the whole purpose of pre-qualifying is to confirm that you at least have a chance in being successful on that job.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's
One
gonna
more
do-
thing. One more
Yeah.
thing before we go. Definitely, like it's leveling up, right? So it's about that time or whenever you get there, make sure you get a website. It doesn't even need to be a super fancy one. Like ours isn't super fancy or anything. It's just a way everyone is on their phones, right? Be part of that social media presence, have a website, link everything together. So that way, when, you know, someone searches for something, your name pops up.
Yeah.
And they want to see proof. They want to see things you've done.
Good insight too, for sure. I started with a website. I don't know if I did it right, but I almost started out of the gate with the website back when they were not easy to build, but I scraped enough money together to have somebody build one for me way back when we first started. I think that's very valuable because the world is more digital than ever, and people don't go to your storefront. What's more important in, you know, not to check you out, right? To see what kind of company you are or whatever. They are searching you online to find out. So that's great advice too.
Yeah,
Damn,
and they
guys.
don't cost much either. I mean, you can get a website for a couple $100s a year.
Yeah. And they don't, you can build it yourself these days.
Yeah.
There's plenty of different ways to do it. Or, you know, a website used to cost 10,000. You can get a website done. Somebody can put it together for you for $1,000. And then if, you know, you can go up from there, obviously, but yeah, that's great advice, guys. You rock this whole huddle. I appreciate all the
Sorry.
insights.
And we're trying to learn from you and listen from you, or listen to you and learn from you. And it didn't work out, did it?
No, well, it's great. I learned some stuff and I hope our audience did too. And just want to say thank you, guys. We truly appreciate, I'm sure I speak for Daniel and Jose as well, that we appreciate you guys coming on and participating in the huddle here, our podcast. And we encourage you to join every week. We have about a 95% hit rate as far as being on here every Tuesday. Out of 14 or whatever it's been, 12 to 14, we've only missed a couple. So hopefully you guys keep coming. Post your comments. I mean, get involved. We'd love to get this out. We know that some industry people are watching, and we've had conversations with some people in the industry. So we can create change if we band together. So we encourage you guys to join us and let's have some good discussions. We do have some guests coming up. We've invited some people. And I know that you guys just mentioned that your one of your clients would be great to join as well. So we'll bring them on and let's have some good conversation, and we will see you guys next week.
Until next time.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.